You're listening to ThunderQuack Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome to Aladdin Reviewed. I am one of your hosts, Michael Cohen, and joining me on this ThunderQuack review is Andy Behbakht from the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina podcast. Say hi, Andy.
Hi, Andy.
Very clever. So we are here to talk about Aladdin, not the 1992 Aladdin, no, but the 2019 live-action Disney film Aladdin, of course. As with our new format here, we will be talking spoilers, but not for a little while. First, Andy and I are going to get into the review. We're going to let you know whether or not you should go see Aladdin, and then we will get into spoilers. We'll let you know when that happens. But first, before we jump into that, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's been supporting us on Patreon. This is our second review since we relaunched with the new Patreon tiers over at patreon.com/ThunderQuack. And the support has been great. I really appreciate it from everybody. If you're listening to this as a podcast, as one of our new podcast subscribers, then thank you for that. If you're watching this on YouTube, also thank you for that. But don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, click the bell so that you get notified when we post new stuff. ThunderQuack is not necessarily on a regular schedule over on YouTube. We talk about stuff when there's stuff to talk about, mostly these reviews. And so having that bell for notifications is the best way to know when there's a new ThunderQuack video up on YouTube. Of course, if you head to patreon.com/ThunderQuack, and you support us at the $5 level or above, you can get this as an MP3 and just listen to it as a podcast directly from the Patreon app. So, or you can actually set that up in whatever podcast app you listen on and get the feed directly there. So, without further ado, how about we get into Aladdin? Andy, right off the bat, what did you think of Aladdin?
I'm not gonna lie. This has been one of my favorite movies since I was a little boy. This was like one of the first characters that defined my childhood because he looked like me. He had my skin color. He was from, it's a Middle Eastern-ish story. So I've been really, really worried how this was gonna go. I really needed Disney to nail this, and after seeing this film, I breathed such a big sigh of relief because it took me right back to when I was a kid. I guess I saw it when I was in. It would have been 99. It came in 92, so I guess I would have been. It would be 1997, 1998 when I saw it. I felt like a kid all over again, seeing this this beloved story being reimagined into the world live action, and I was relieved. I was so happy. It it was very nostalgic, but also Guy Ritchie don't get me wrong, Guy Ritchie is a phenomenal director. I just didn't know if he was a good choice for Aladdin, but thankfully I think he did a really solid job with bringing this world to life.
Awesome. Yeah. I totally agree. I mean, I saw Aladdin in the movie theater. I'm gonna wager. I mean, like, I was too young at the time to really track whether or not it was opening weekend, but very close to opening weekend. This is back during the Disney Renaissance, the second movie in the Disney Renaissance. Third movie. Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, then Aladdin, followed by Lion King. As sort of, I think, the pinnacle of the Disney Renaissance. It's crazy that we're going to get Lion King in only about a month and a half.
Right?
But at this point, if Lion King is half as good of an adaptation, which I believe I think it's probably going to be better as Aladdin was. I think that everybody will be really happy with Lion King as well. But yeah, wow, this movie. I went in wanting to like it first off, so I think that that's a really important caveat. I wanted to enjoy this. I wanted to have fun. I was ready for the reimagining of the classic Aladdin from 1992. My only worries were how they were going to handle the musicality of it, and whether or not the songs would be intact, whether or not the songs would be updated at all, and how that stuff was going to come across in live action. Obviously, there have been a few other live action remakes already. It kind of starts with Maleficent, although not officially, because Maleficent isn't really a remake as much as it is a complete reimagining. I mean, it changes the story drastically.
Big time.
But if we count it as the first one, after that, you've got, let's see, Cinderella. You've
Beauty and the
got
Beast.
Beauty and the Beast. Jungle Book is in there. And I would say, I actually still haven't seen Beauty and the Beast. But Jungle Book, one of the reasons why I haven't seen Beauty and the Beast is because it was not terribly well received, and so it's not one of those ones that I've gotten around to seeing. Jungle Book, however, was phenomenal, but the weakest part of Jungle Book was the musical numbers. This is one of the things that I'm worried about with Lion King, actually, is that the Jungle Book kind of shied away from the musical nature of the Disney animated features, and it definitely leaned more into the reality of the live action. Live action being a little bit of a misnomer, considering so many characters in it are animated. But that live action style. And so going into Aladdin, I was very worried that similarly the music was going to be toned down from the animated version. And what I found was actually the opposite, the complete opposite. The music and the choreography of it all, it was actually, I would say, cranked up. It was even more exciting and more colorful and rich than I would say even the animated stuff was. I actually just not recently, I mean like last night, I rewatched the animated Aladdin. Cara wanted to watch it after having gone to see the live action one, and so we were watching it last night, and I found myself a little bit underwhelmed by some of the stuff. In particular, Friend Like Me is a great song and a great performance by Robin Williams, but the animation is actually somewhat lackluster when you compare it to this live action version. And what I mean by that, it's great animation. It's definitely like top notch, high quality animation. But
especially for that time when it came
especially
out.
for that time. But the richness of the background, the number of characters on screen, the visual gags, and just the sort of interest generated by it. There's actually a lot of blank backgrounds with a character or two on them. So Genie will sort of do something, and him and Aladdin will be on a gold gradient background, and that's all that's on screen. It's just the two of them in this background. Now, at the time in 1992, they were doing some amazing stuff, but when compared to movies today and musicals especially, it just seemed a little bit boring. Not boring as in like snooze, but just like there's just not that much of visual interest on the screen. So coming out of the live action version of it, the thing that I was the most struck by, the thing I was most worried about, ended up being the best part of the movie, and that was absolutely the music. I mean, I bought the soundtrack right away. We listened to it in the car, and I've been listening to it. A lot of the songs have made their way into my regular rotation on iTunes and in my playlist and that sort of thing. So I can say for myself that I'm like that worry was not necessary. And they did it. They pulled off what I needed them to. So I was really glad about that. And then also I'd read a couple of reviews, so I think I was prepared for the performances. I think Will Smith knocks it out of the park as Genie. I think that Naomi Scott is head and shoulders a better Jasmine than the animated version. And that's not to say anything about the performance of Jasmine in the animated version, but just the characterization I think is better, and she gets to do more with it. And as a result, that character is way more interesting in this version. Mena Massoud is good, capable, but not as, I don't know. He just doesn't pop as much as I think I was hoping for. And where it gets a little bit disappointing is Marwan Kenzari, who plays Jafar, just doesn't have the same appeal as Jafar in the animated version. So, when we go apples to apples and we compare those characters across, there's something a little bit lacking in his portrayal of Jafar. He's much more creepy and unsettling, and a lot less evil and mustache twirling, which I think is what everybody kind of wants from that bad guy. I would say Jafar is one of the top 5 villains in Disney, especially in terms of that straight up magical bad guy. It's sort of like Maleficent, him, Hades, and who else? I mean, Gaston's pretty high up there as well. So yeah, there's big shoes to fill. I think even bigger than any of these other characters. Genie, it was never gonna be Robin Williams, so you're kind of off the hook with that one, because Will Smith is going to come in and he's going to do his own thing, which he absolutely does. But yeah, Jafar just doesn't do it for me. So yeah, I mean, there are additional characters that we didn't get previously. Nassim Pedrad plays Dahlia, Billy Magnuson, who is always funny whenever he shows up. He's a great character actor as Prince Anders, and surprisingly, Hakeem, the head of the guard, played by Newman Akar, it has a fairly important role to play, and is a pretty prominent character. So that was cool. That was interesting to see, especially for those of us who watched the animated series or watched the follow up Aladdin movies, Return of Jafar and King of Thieves, in which some of those background characters from the original, the guards in particular, play a much more important role and actually have stories. So yeah, I don't know. I thought that overall the performances were good, but I just really wanted more from Jafar. And I was very disappointed that they went the safe route with Iago and had him just be a parrot and not speak full on, not have the comedic moments that Iago has in the
especially with
original.
Alan Tudyk, being the voice of it. Like, Alan Tudyk is a treasure
Mm-hmm.
to not just live action performances like he is on right now on Doom Patrol, but like when you get like when he does his voices in whatever it is that he does, like you shouldn't waste him. And I feel like he definitely got wasted because he had like, I mean, I only remember hearing having like a few lines, but he never actually like engages with Jafar the way he does in the original.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's the disappointment, right? Is that um there's a great back and forth between Jafar and Iago in the original film, where like Iago is just as responsible for the evil acts committed as Jafar is. I mean, like a lot of what happens in the movie is actually his idea. He sort of throws out a lot of things, and Jafar follows his lead a couple of times, um, which is missing in this one. I mean, like Iago does play an important role and does have some great standout moments in this one, as do Abu and Carpet. But yeah, all three of those characters who are so important in the film and in the subsequent material, let's call it the Aladdin expanded universe. And they, I don't know, I love what they did with Abu and Carpet, and they do have a couple of good moments, but the focus is certainly on Genie, Aladdin, and Jasmine. But I did enjoy their take on the Sultan, Naveed Negaban. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that properly, but
You're
uh,
close.
I yeah, he does a great job, and that character is much more interesting in this version, if less comical than the original. The Sultan in the animated version is a bit of a joke, intentionally so, and that's not a problem. But he's much more regal. He's much more capable, and so I don't know. I honestly think that makes Jafar potentially more threatening in this version because he's actually controlling an intelligent, powerful man, and
Yeah.
not just manipulating a bit of a doofus, you know. Um, so yeah, I think that the performances overall are great, but I think that Will Smith is absolutely the standout, and Naomi Scott just I think that she steals every scene that she's in. I really enjoyed her in Power Rangers as well.
Yes.
She was Kimberly Hart in Power Rangers, the Pink Ranger. It's a shame that incarnation of Power Rangers isn't going to continue, because that cast was fantastic. Um, but I'm glad that Naomi Scott that didn't sort of wipe out her career as it could have. And I think that after this, she's going to be in a lot of stuff. I think this will be really good for her career because it really shows a lot of her range, and her voice is incredible.
Oh
Um,
yes.
wow, her vocal performances, especially if you get the soundtrack, and she has a song that's a new song that's not in the 1992 version. Although Jasmine did have a song in the 1992 version that was cut, but this is a different song, Speechless. And if you get the album, or you can just go on and buy the individual song, it's kind of broken up throughout the movie, but you can get the whole thing as one song, and I think it's a really, really great piece of music. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah, and her performance in A Whole New World is I prefer every version of every one of these songs in the new one to the old ones. Um, yeah, like, and I think that's saying a lot. I've been listening to the Aladdin soundtrack since 1992, since I was a kid, and so those songs it's difficult to come along and say like, oh, these are better, but these versions to my ear are much better versions.
See, I don't know if I'm ready yet to say if I prefer like the versions of these songs in the 2019 version as opposed to 1992 version, because I mean we wouldn't have them if it wasn't for the 1992 version.
Sure.
But I think you can that I mean in terms of like how they're executed on screen, I think that's something that can be discussed. And yeah, I mean for me, I mean, look, the animated film is always gonna have a special place in my heart, and like Robin Williams as Genie is, I mean, it's one of the most iconic castings of all fictional characters, and so Will Smith, but the thing is, Will Smith, he brings such a, he brings a personality and he brings an energy that is, it's not Robin Williams, but it is still something very special at that type of level. But it doesn't have to be like, because I didn't want him to go into this film trying to mimic what Robin Williams did. I love the fact that we got the Will Smith version of the Genie, which is like definitely it has a bit of because he is one of the great things about Will Smith is that he is a rapper. He is an amazing musician, and that's what he brings to the Genie. So, and I feel like for a live action version, I cannot picture anyone else, and we have so many talented actors and so on. Like, I mean, you could have put someone like I don't know, Billy Crystal or someone like that in this role, but I feel like Will Smith is like he steals a lot of the scenes in this film, and I mean, look, I don't know if I told you this, but I watched the Power Rangers movie over 27 times, and Naomi Scott is definitely one of the reasons why I do it, because she is an outstanding actress. So I'm look, and look, I can't talk about this film without them the culture side of things that comes with Aladdin, because I know there's always been a little bit of a controversy of how Aladdin establishes himself as because Agrabah is supposed to be an Arabian kind of country and city, but there's a lot of Indian culture mixed into this film, and also the 1992 version as well. And as a Middle Eastern, I can definitely agree with people who have talked about the fact, look, we're not interchangeable, we're not the same culture, so we shouldn't be mixed into the one and the same thing. But with that said, it doesn't ruin my enjoyment of this film. And there was, yes, there was controversy to the castings of Naomi Scott, because they were given the other actors that they were up for the role and so on, who was more, I guess, culturally appropriate for the role. But at the end of the day, when you get someone like Naomi Scott in this role, I mean, she's just so enjoyable to watch. I mean, her Jasmine is, and I will say, this is something I'm ready to say in comparison to the 1992 version. She's more empowered in this. She is empowered in the animated one. Trust me. Don't kill me for this. But in this one, like, and especially because this isn't like too cartoony, I guess. It has a more of a real feel to it in the ways of how the characters come off and how the story plays out. And she is more of an empowered character. I mean, her song, I think. I mean, look, I'm not a woman, so I cannot speak for it. But I have a feeling that her standout song might be something that is very appropriate right now in today's culture. And so yeah, and I think that look, for me, that's something that I think that this film will win on so many levels when it comes to comparing it to the animated version. I was curious when you're talking about Mina Masood as Aladdin. I don't I don't know if I would want to say that he doesn't pop as much. I think for me is that I think that there is more of an adultness to this Aladdin than, because the one we see in 1992 is very much not a teenager per se, but he is very teenagey, if that makes sense. Like he's, because they keep calling him street ready. He comes out as very, very young. So I would say he was like 18, 19 years old in that film. He has very much of a teenage feel to it. But this one, it feels like we're following an adult. I mean, maybe that's why he didn't like. I mean, I'm just speculating. Maybe that's why he doesn't pop in the same way as he did in the cartoon one, to you, I guess. But no, I think he's an amazing Aladdin. I think he like at least has that spirit that I would want for anyone playing Aladdin, because I want that adventurous side of him. I want that one who is willing to take all these risks. I mean, there's a pivotal scene in the film where he literally talks about risk. Um, I no, but I love this cast though. But I will agree. I wish we've gotten more of Jafar. I think Marwan Kenzari, they could have done more with him, and I almost wonder if when the Blu-ray DVD comes out, if there's going to be a lot of cut scenes from him, because I felt there was supposed to be more of him, but they cut stuff.
Yeah, it's possible. There might be some extra. There are a couple of I enjoy the movie overall. I think it's a great film. There are a couple of weird edits, weird pacing bits in it.
Yeah.
The opening, especially, considering how much they cut and changed, like they sort of condensed two things together, and One Jump Ahead actually involves Jasmine in this version. And yet it feels like the beginning of the movie takes longer. It takes a lot longer to get to the Cave of Wonders than the original version does. So that was a little bit weird to me. That was one of the things that I noted. Towards the end of the film, the fact that he doesn't turn into a snake bothers me. I mean, like that's so iconic for...
Oh, we're in spoilers now, I guess.
Oh yeah. I think that we could go into spoilers. From here on out, let's go into spoilers. Let's get into it.
Okay.
So you've been warned now. Yeah, I mean, they replaced that sequence with Iago, and another carpet sequence, which is a great sequence. It's really well done, but. They spend so much time with the lamp in their hands, and at no point Aladdin grabs the lamp and then rubs it and wishes to undo everything that Jafar has done, right? Like, that seems like such an easy out. The other thing, I thought maybe, just maybe, they would surprise the audience with this one and have Jasmine grab the lamp at some point, rub it, and make a wish, like, in order to solve things. Because the one thing that just has always bothered me, not when I was a little kid, I never thought about this, but like essentially as an adult, when I watch Aladdin, the idea of like, well, Aladdin only gets 3 wishes. Well, at the end of the movie, after they've defeated Jafar, he's in the lamp, he's gone. There's obviously I got to turn you back into a prince. I gotta help with all that. And then Aladdin's like, no, I'm going to wish you free. And he wishes him free. And it's like, hold up. If Aladdin only has 1 wish left, whatever. The Sultan and Jasmine are both right there. Either one of them can take the lamp, rub it, and wish for things. Like,
yeah, they have 6 wishes as total.
Yeah, exactly. And then the one last wish from Aladdin. So, yeah. You set Genie free. Like, now that we've got 7 wishes left, we absolutely set Genie free right at the end. But like, let's take a second and utilize those other wishes, right? Like, let's.
If you think about it, we also have Dahlia, we have Hakim. That's basically 12.
Yeah.
Expendable wishes you could have used before setting him free.
Exactly. So I mean, like, it does kind of break the movie a little bit when you start talking about it that way. So I understand why they didn't do it. But even to just have Jasmine use the lamp to defeat Jafar, I think would have been a refreshing change. But I also see where it probably would have been difficult for them to justify from a narrative perspective, because then you're adding in this complication of like, well, now you've got all these extra wishes. Now there's another 2 acts to the movie of them wishing for other things.
Plus, they take away that iconic defeat of Aladdin tricking Jafar into wishing, like, look, you're always going to be second best because the genie, he made you a sultan. He made you the most powerful sorcerer, and he can take it away. And, like, for me, that's what, like, because that's where, like, Aladdin's wits and, street smarts come into play. And that's why I'm like, okay, that's can never be taken away. As much as I love Jasmine, as much as I would have loved to have seen her maybe getting a few wishes or maybe getting to play a way into defeating him, that's Aladdin's win, and I think that should not be messed with. But with that said, it would have been neat, because she grabs a lap and she jumps literally out the balcony. She could have, I don't know, she could have like maybe. I don't know. She could have made wish for something, but at the same time, they're literally flying for their lives. So maybe making a wish wasn't like on her mind. Maybe she was like, okay, we just gotta survive this. But yeah, I think this is a very dangerous territory, ladies and gentlemen, to get into. Like, because once you start questioning of like, well, they didn't make a wish, it becomes like, well, why didn't all of them make a wish? So.
Yeah.
It's dangerous territory for sure.
Yeah, so I mean it's a great sequence, but I just think it had me asking the question during that sequence, because it is a quite a long action sequence, where they've
That's what Guy Ritchie is so good for. Like, that's like, that
Yeah.
moment when when they're flying around the city, they're like, okay, this is why they got Guy Ritchie, because the action in Aladdin is, if you really think about it, let's go back to 1992. If you took the in a live action format today, Guy Ritchie is someone you definitely want to bring in to do that, because he'll make sure you feel that this is a battle for life and death.
Sure, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that he brings an interesting stylistic approach to it. All of the sped up. So there's a couple of scenes in the movie, especially during some of the musical sequences, where One Jump Ahead has a lot of it in it. Where Prince Ali, I think, has a little bit as well. Where you notice like the characters are moving a little bit unnaturally, and the reason why is because what they did was they would have played back the song at, let's say, half speed, and they would have had the characters block everything out and do all of their stuff. There's a little bit in Friend Like Me, I think, as well. And then you film it at half speed, so that means that you film, instead of 24 frames per second, you film 12 frames per second. And then when you play it back at 24, it's faster. But because you've doubled the length of the song, the movements that go along with the music end up matching up perfectly with the song, if that makes sense, if that explanation makes sense. So you get kind of this almost stop motion quality, because you're getting less, more movement in less frames. So the eye kind of sees it as this sort of like stuttery motion. And to me, that was the most Guy Ritchie thing about the film. And I think it worked, but it was a little bit, it caught me a little bit by surprise the first time you see it. But I do like it. I like that there was like a stylistic choice there that I think the biggest thing, and I think this is one of the things that's gonna get this movie a lot of negative reviews, both from critics and fans, is that this movie is a very high production value staged musical. It doesn't feel, especially during the musical numbers, like a film. The Veritas isn't there that I think most people expect from a movie, like from a film movie, like let's say a Marvel movie, which is one of the reasons why the Marvel movies work so well, is because they do lean into that Veritas, that truth, very heavily. And then when ridiculous things happen, it's exciting because we go, well, this is believable. But there's a nature to this film that isn't in any of the other Disney live action stuff, as far as I've noticed, where, especially because Will Smith, the genie, as we learned at the end of the movie, is the one telling the story to his children. It's a heightened version of the world, because he's telling this fun, colorful story. So I think that's I think that that's a fun area to play in. I think that that was a cool direction to go, but I can see how it's probably going to put off a lot of average movie going audience members, who aren't necessarily interested in something like that. They don't want to see a film version of a musical. And I think one of the reasons why I like that idea is because the last time I saw Aladdin before this, the last time I sat through the whole story of Aladdin was at Disneyland in California Adventure, in the Hyperion Theater, before they replaced it with Frozen. For a very long time, that was a stage show of Aladdin, and an amazing stage show of Aladdin. And
that's amazing.
I feel like this movie actually took a lot from that. And there's a Broadway musical for Aladdin as well. And I think that this version borrows a lot from that. I mean, like the one sequence in the bazaar during One Jump Ahead, when they're running through, and all of the spices and everything are exploding behind them, and it goes into slow motion and stuff. I mean, that felt it felt very musical. It also felt very Bollywood, to go there. Which I really liked. I really enjoyed that element of it. I understand what you were saying earlier about, like, they kind of take Middle Eastern and Indian culture and they sort of mix it up into this melange of
well, it's not just mixing it up. It's
of tropes, but
yeah.
I they do that just to play the devil's advocate, which is dangerous because I'm a white person. But let me just say this part of it. All of the Disney movies do this to a certain degree with every culture that they represent.
Yeah, that's fair to say.
You're in dangerous territory with this one because it's an underserved culture in American storytelling, in North American storytelling, and more than being underserved, I mean, like, Middle Eastern characters are often portrayed as terrorists and villains and all of that sort of thing. So
so we can say the T word on it. Okay, good. I was like, can I say it? Can I say it?
I mean,
okay.
like, that's I think that that's a reality that we live in. That's the world that we're in right now, post 9/11 world, right? That's the way that Middle Eastern Arab cultures have been portrayed on screen in the last couple decades, and so you're in difficult territory. But I think the important thing about this movie is actually not to look at all of the places where they maybe took liberties or sort of bent things with poetic license, but I think more importantly, where they took the original source material and they fixed some of the problems that had, namely the casting being people of color. Although there's a little bit of maybe controversy around that with a couple of the actors, but certainly, I mean, like, there is one white character in this movie, which is refreshing for a Disney film.
I gotta be honest though.
Yeah.
I thought he was so unnecessary, because I'm like, okay, in what world would this man be a prince when he? I mean, I don't know what to call his personality. I mean, I don't even know if that was a personality, but I thought he was so unnecessary. Like, he wasn't even funny. Like, I mean, I know I get that actor has appeal or whatever and so on, but I think Prince Anders was just.
I liked him. I liked that character. I found him to be very classic Disney, of the sort of doofy prince.
Really? Because for me, I thought that was even. It was beneath what, even like the doofus kind of characters we usually see in Disney. I felt this was like even. I mean, at a very, very low level. So, but hey, I mean, everyone has their own appeal to it, I guess. I mean, their own feels about it. So for me, I that was the one moment where I was like, I'm cringing. Please, Genie, kill him off. I don't know, do something. Just send him away. I don't like this dude. Um, but yeah, because I just wanted I just wanted more screen time with Aladdin and Jasmine. And I mean, what follows in that scene is, I mean, listen, I love the fact that Genie was like in many ways like a wingman, more than so than he was in the original one, because he helps Aladdin dance like nobody's business.
Yeah.
That was one of the best dance sequences I've seen on
It
film in a very long
Yeah,
time.
I felt like it borrowed a little bit from A Knight's Tale, which the Heath Ledger film, which is a movie that is, I think, at least at the time, it was very critically underrated. I think it's a cult classic. I think that there's a lot of people out there, especially our generation, who love that movie, and I feel like it borrowed a little bit of that. It took this period setting and it added a little bit of a modern flavor to it, and I really liked that. I thought that sequence was great. I thought it was a very welcome addition to the movie, and that the choreography was awesome. So good, so good.
I think that was mostly Mena Mizudo, because I mean, there's the whole joke about, was the backflip a little too much? I mean, it's like, if that was Mena Mizudo doing that backflip, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, kudos to him, because again, the dad. I mean,
Yeah,
I can barely.
I can believe that it was him. I mean, it appeared that he was doing a lot of that parkour himself, right? So, if you can do that level of parkour, then I think a backflip's probably a pretty easy thing to pull off.
You, you know what? This is so horrible, but like, because my dosage of parkour has been coming lately from
From
this little
Arrow.
show from Arrow. Yes, so there were times where I'm like, is he gonna do a backflip by Roy? Is he gonna pull an Oliver? Because like I've been like, guys, 8 years of Arrow. It's like, I mean, that's really where I get all my parkouring from.
Yeah.
And Colton Haynes and Stephen Amell, they do a lot of it. And so seeing Mena do it as Aladdin, I felt that was just refreshing, because we're in a completely different setting here. We're not in this modern city known as Star City. We're in Agrabah, and also like during there's a scene in when he's sent to the I'm guessing it's the North Pole. And oh my god, when Abu is like, when he's like all trapped down there, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, Jafar, you mother bleep because like you don't do that to Abu. And I love the fact that Genie was able to send the mat to him, which to me, I will say that was one of the things that kind of was a little bit of a letdown, the way he sends Aladdin off, because in the original one he sends him away in that tower, and I
Yeah.
thought that was just so iconic. So, but is it fair to say that for any quote unquote iconic moment that was taken away, I feel that they added something else that can be seen as iconic, but for this film,
I
because
think so.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, because I mean, here's the thing, I didn't I'm okay that to not get a shot by shot remake. That's not what I particularly care for. That's one reason and I don't know if this will change your mind about seeing this, but one reason I love Beauty and the Beast is because there is some differences. I mean, not to spoil too much for you, Michael, but the Beast has a very pivotal song in
Mm.
it. I like, you should really watch it. I think you would actually
I'll
enjoy
definitely
it.
watch it. It just hasn't been high on my list of priorities, right? So,
No,
yeah.
that's fair.
No, I'll
I
definitely watch it, but yeah, I'm sure that I'll probably enjoy it to a certain degree, but
But
yeah.
but like, but speaking like on the subject of like scenes that makes that becomes its own iconic thing. I think one of the iconic things that this film has now added is the fact that the genie, that he gets his own happy ending. I mean, I
Mhm.
loved hashtag the genie, aka Dahlia and Genie. Yes, I shipped them. Leave me alone. And I thought they were so cute. Also because I love Nazim Pedrad so much.
Yeah.
Another I'm very certain she's Iranian. But she's a Persian actress. So like of course I'm gonna cheer for all my Persians out there. I mean, also we had Naveed, who I just remember he was on Arrow. He was the first League of Assassins member we ever saw.
Oh, was he?
Uh,
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
before Sarah snapped his neck off. So yeah, I'm happy for all my
That's awesome.
Persians in this film. Um, I something I really just want to talk about is I just want to talk about the full performance of Speechless,
Mhm.
because I don't know, for me, because I mean, look, Jasmine in many ways. I mean, she was the Disney princess has been so iconic since Snow White, and but Jasmine, I think, she was one of the first women of color we got, and
Mhm.
she was, she was in a different position than the Disney princesses. And this kid, I mean, they really add a backstory. The reason she doesn't get out of the palace is because after her mom was killed, who was a beloved woman in that city, her father wanted to protect her at all costs, and she believes she should be sultan and all that. And I'm like, this is just so empowering to see, because now it's not just about her marrying a prince and whatnot. And also, okay, I'm gonna hide behind Michael and say this, and then you can go at him in the comment section or something like that. I'm using it as my shield. I think the romance side of things is better done here than the animated one, because if it feels like they actually develop it a little bit.
Oh yeah,
You know,
it's way more realized in this one. Not just in the sense that that
it's
they
love
spend
at
more
first sight.
time on it or anything like that, but Aladdin actually goes to the effort of doing a
It's
few
a word for
things.
it.
Yeah, like for Jasmine, like he actually like shows his worth to her. It's not a one-time occurrence, but it is actually I mean, like he begins the action of courting her, right? And yeah, they do such a better job in this film of establishing the connection between the two of them and an actual legitimate relationship developing than the animated version does. Now, where the animated version has it over this is that the animated version then goes on to have the animated series as well as the sequels that build that out before those characters get married, right? Because they actually don't get married until King of Thieves,
Yeah, that's
which is the third Aladdin movie. So
I've always had mixed feelings about the sequels, because I
yeah.
mean I don't like Return of the Jafar as much as I did as I was a kid. King of the Thieves is very a big mix to me, because while I like the idea of his father coming back and kind of seeing what kind of character he was, I always appreciated the notion that he was alone, that he had no one.
Mm.
And so for King of Thieves, like even as a kid, I was like, I was emotionally I had an emotional complex with that film. So, and the TV show, I mean, it was just something you would watch when you would come home from school at the Disney hour. And also, by the way, for those who do not know, Return of the Jafar is just essentially a backdoor pilot for that TV show.
Yeah.
Like, because I remember I was talking to someone a few years ago who was like, Return of the Jafar was such an odd base. I'm like, because basically it was just a backdoor pilot. But no, like the romance side of things is just so more fleshed out here. Like it doesn't look. It definitely has that love at first sight kind of thing,
Mm-hmm.
but we really like. I buy that these two would fall in love with each other, and that they would be a perfect match, because they're of two different worlds, but at the same time they're not, because they look at the world in many similar ways. And and again, when we get to Speechless, like when the full performance, I mean, that's one of the people. That was one of the first times I actually started crying in the film, because I'm like, again, and again, as a man, I cannot speak to that. So to any of our female listeners, I mean, reach out to us if I'm incorrect about this. But I think this fits so well in what's going on today, and like in Hollywood, in many other industries at the same time for women. And I'm really happy that Disney allowed Jasmine to have that moment. Like, when people go, when little girls go away seeing this film, they're not just gonna talk about, oh, she gets to marry Aladdin. So they're gonna talk about she gets to be part of the action. She got to have her own solo performance. She got to stand up to the Sultan and everyone else around her because she wanted to be Sultan. And I don't. What more can you ask for? Like,
Mhm.
Again, I have not looked at. Look, I'm not gonna lie here. I have not looked at a single review of this film because I don't want to. Because, and this is where I'm gonna sound really selfish. This is my movie. This is the movie I've been waiting for 16 years, over 16 years, to see in live action because it is such a beloved story. And like for me, for anything they took away, they added so much good else to it that I feel like this is I'm not gonna lie, I don't own any of the Disney films anymore, either on Blu-ray or for all you kids out there on tape, because that's the era me and Michael come from. We actually had cassettes. My mom actually threw away my Aladdin copy of cassette like many years ago, which I will never forgive her for, because that's my bay. So but no, I mean, again, I know we're getting close to the hour mark, but if I could just say one final thing, because you were talking about this a little while ago about how the Middle Eastern is portrayed today in the result of 9/11. Aladdin was for me one of my first superheroes on screen, but before I even saw a cape, because again, he looked like me, but also he didn't have any superpowers. His only superpower he had, if any, was his braverish heart, how he cared for people around him. He would. I mean, yes, he would steal, but something he would steal for people who didn't have it good themselves. There's moments in an animated version and also in this one where his only like food he has, he gives it away to children who are starving. So does Jasmine. She's literally. I mean, the first time we see her, she's literally taking a piece of bread and giving it to two kids, and doesn't care about paying for it because they were starving to death. And yes, we have a problem right now in Hollywood where Middle Easterns are. I mean, we're either portrayed as low class citizens or we're portrayed as terrorists because of 9/11. That's what we're now all associated as. And it's look, I'm not gonna get into the politics of it because we're just not. But we need to break away from that because not all Middle Easters are bad.
Mhm.
And Middle Easters are not bad. Terrorists are bad. Terrorists are bad. Terrorists are terrorists. That should be the statement that people should take away from it. And so, for anyone out there, for any brown kid out there who might be listening to this, or you know, if they don't know what Atlanta is, and that was what's so exciting for me to see to see little kids seeing this story for the first time. Remember that because this is what I always took away from it. We can be heroes. We can save the world. We can get the girl or guy. It's fine, and we can have the adventure that any other hero could, whether they're black or if they're white or if they're straight or if they're LGBT. So, and that's what Aladdin always was for me. The story of like, you know what, Andy, you can be that too. You can also be a hero. You can also win the love of your life. You can also save the world. You can also save the day. And that's what I hope that for any kid out there watching this today, which I'm so jealous that I don't get to be a kid today watching Atlanta for the first time and getting to have that feeling that I had over 20 years ago where I'm like, crap, that he looks like me. I can be him. So I hope people like me out there gets to have that feeling too, and that to sum it up, goes and see this film because I think this is definitely a film worth seeing. That I think it's gonna again it's a classic adventure, but with some appropriately added pleasure to it. Thanks to someone like Will Smith,
Mhm.
who is such a great entertainer. So, yes, for me, and if I don't know if we're doing ratings on this, but if I had to give it a rating, I would give this a solid 9 out of 10. So there you go.
Yeah, I mean, the number scale is always helpful for the nuance there, but I always just say, like, should you see it or not? And for me, it's like this is definitely worth seeing in the theater. I don't know if I'd go see it in IMAX or anything. I saw it in 2D. 3D is probably great as well, um, but yeah, if you have the opportunity to go see this in the theater, I think it's worthwhile just for the musical numbers alone. And then the performances are good. It is a solid movie from start to finish. It's not perfect. It's not by no means a perfect 10 film, but it is definitely in that 8 to 9 range, I think. So yeah, I think it's a great adaptation. It does exactly what an adaptation should do. It's very, very respectful of the source material, but it uses a different medium, moving from animation into live action, to inform some different decisions. And it does some things, a lot of things, I think, better than the original does. And I think one of the most important things, I think one of the places where people get hung up on movies like this is that this does not replace the original.
Exactly.
Like I said, we went and saw it on Saturday, and everybody had a great time. We listened to music in the car on the way home, and while we were out doing stuff, we were playing it Sunday afternoon while we were cleaning the house, all of that stuff. And then last night, Cara still wanted to watch the cartoon. She still wants to watch the animated version, and that's a 2.5-year-old this is new to her, and she sees the animated version, and there's no better or worse in her eyes. They're both great, and I think that's something that people lose sight of as adults. We want to categorize things and we want to rank things, and obviously, I mean, like, we're gonna have a show that's all about ranking shows, ranking movies and franchises and that sort of thing. Um, but I think you can do that stuff, but you got to do it with good nature and for fun. Do it as an exercise in talking about what you love, not criticizing the things that you hate. And I think that that's the most important takeaway for me, um, lately with film and critiques and a lot of the discourse around this film. There are people out there that just want to take things down to take things down. That's not to say that when something is bad that we shouldn't criticize it for being bad. Go ahead and listen to Quiver, and you'll hear lots of Amanda and I talking about a show that's not living up to its potential. But that's different. That's a different situation from you've got A and you've got B, and they have similarities, and I'm going to compare the similarities and the differences and say that one is better than the other. Neither one of these movies is better. For me personally, I like the music in the live action one more. I like Will Smith's Friend Like Me more. I like the sort of like hip hop version of One Jump Ahead more. I just like them more. I just musically I find them more interesting to listen to, and I like the tempo and like how sort of they've been sped up a little bit. They're a little bit more energetic. I
But that's
like
not to say,
that.
by the way, if I may, yes, add this, that doesn't mean that you don't appreciate the fact that, I mean, just doesn't mean that you don't respect the notion that
Yeah,
the animation gave us all that.
absolutely. Well,
We
I
don't
mean,
disrespect where it came from.
the original version of One Jump Ahead is still on the same playlist that I've got the new version on. Like, that's the thing, is that it doesn't have to be either or, and I think a lot of the conversation ends up being either or, and that's irrelevant. We are lucky enough, especially those of us in the Western world, who don't have to worry about where our next meal is coming from, who don't have to worry about bombings or totalitarian dictatorships or any of that, or sort of the nonsense that's going on in some parts of the world. We're really lucky that we get to focus our time on things like Disney movies, Star Wars, DC versus Marvel, and all of that sort of thing. And I think we're a little bit spoiled rotten as a result,
A little.
where we want to say that one thing is better than the other is if we have to make a choice. You don't have to make a choice. Um, you can have both versions. You get to have both versions. You can love both, and I think that that's a gift. And I think that people kind of look that gift horse in the mouth a little bit, and they kind of take it for granted, which is that there you go. That's a genie pun. And I just think that people should be a little bit more open-minded and here's the thing: better, worse, different, the same. It doesn't matter. Did you go to this movie? Did you smile when you're supposed to smile? Did you laugh when you're supposed to laugh? Did you cry when you're supposed to cry? Did it make you feel things like it intended? Were you entertained? That is all you can ask from a film.
Yep.
And the people who worked on this movie worked very hard, and they did a great job. And I think that they deserve all the credit.
I mean, the production value in this film. I mean,
yeah, it's beautiful. Agrabah is incredible. I mean, like, it makes me think like I want them to take elements of Agrabah from this movie and remodel areas in Disneyland and Disney World so that we can have more of this kind of
flavor. I really hope the Disney, like the Disney park, where I went to back in Anaheim, back in March, in Anaheim, does add like a little Aladdin section. I mean, or maybe there was, maybe I just missed it.
There used to be one. It actually, just before you showed up, just before you got there, they had closed it off. I think back in I want to say like August or September, they closed it off to remodel it. But they remodeled it. They took it. They didn't use that area very much. It used to be, they used to use it occasionally for meet and greets with Aladdin and Jasmine, actually. But they remodeled it into a little cafe, like a little sort of tropical hideaway. I think it's actually called the Tropical Hideaway Cafe, so that it's actually kind of themed in part with the tiki room right next to it. But yeah, I mean, like I haven't been to it yet because I was there in September and I think it just probably opened around the time that you were there, Andy.
I'm going back in July when I'm having my vacation in LA. So I'm gonna try and swing back because I only spent like I went there at 4 p.m. So I was only there for a couple hours. But I mean, it was still one. I mean, you saw the pic. I mean, I met Groot. Yeah. I got to hug Groot. So like nothing beats that. But yeah, I mean,
did you go into Disneyland as well as California Adventure, or just California Adventure?
Oh, I went to the one on the left side because
you only went into one park, so you went into California Adventure. So you didn't even go into Disneyland yet. That's the thing. So you got to go back because you got to go into Disneyland proper.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and see if I can do this here because I mean, revisiting, just seeing all of Disney's again, like just brought back all my childhoodness. Because I mean, yes, for a lot of people who follow me on social media who may think he likes Disney stuff. Yes, I may tweet a lot about DC, but listen, I was raised a Disney child. So you have no idea how many Disney movies my parents would give me as a kid, even though my mother has thrown away a lot of those cassettes. Thanks, Mom. I was raised on Disney for most part. So yeah, I'm Disney. I'm gonna try and see if I can get into both parks because you see that it's a very beautiful time. I mean, I've seen Michael, you have no idea how many YouTube videos I watch. I'm just like, I go into like Ariel mode. I'm like, I want to be where the people are, which by the way, when they do Little Mermaid, if they ever do Little Mermaid adaptation for Disney, I mean that's gonna be. I don't know. Let's get if people love Aquaman, let's just get James Wan to do it. So we can get it. And then,
no thanks. I don't want James Wan to do Little Mermaid. But anyways, I think that's a good place to wrap up.
Wait, let me ask you one final question though. Even though they got married in this film, and even though they kind of make reference to what happens to his parents, if you're a Bob Iger right now, would you greenlit an Aladdin King of Thieves sequel?
No. I mean, I would do Return of Jafar first. So the most important thing here is that the genie doesn't have magic powers anymore. At least not as far as we saw at the end of this movie.
They can fix that. They can just be like, oh, he just had stage performances when he that was such a beautiful moment, by the way, when he's like, okay, are you ready? I'm gonna make you prince again. He's like, I set you free. He's like, wait, what? What are you doing?
Oh yeah,
then,
that performance from Will Smith in that moment. I mean, like he almost sheds a tear, and it's fantastic.
That their friendship is, I think, if it mimics anything of the classic, is that their friendship is just as compelling and strong and beautiful as it was between Robin Williams and the guy from Full House who somehow voiced Aladdin. Wait, what is his name? Oh my god, what is his name? Oh my god,
it's sorry, 1 second. I'll bring it up. It's
Scott
Scott
Weinger.
Scott Weinger. Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah. So like that, to me, that's like something like, I hope somewhere Robin Williams is watching this and like he's watching this film and he's just like he saw and he gave his big thumbs up and approval and so on. Because I mean, again, we miss them. It's so hard to picture anyone else playing that role. But I think if we had to get anyone, I think Will Smith was just he was just perfect for it, and I think Robin would be very proud of him.
I think he absolutely would have. I think if he were still around, that he would have loved this performance, and he would have celebrated it just as much as everybody is right now. So yeah, I am confident in saying that. But that's a great place to cap it off. Thank you, Andy, for joining me on
Thank you for having me.
Reviewed. Yeah. Where can people find you?
They can find me. Well, first, if you want to hear me podcast more on the ThunderQuack Network, you can find me on the Chilling the Chilling Adventures of Sabrina podcast at sabrinapodcast.com. Jordan and we have one episode left to record for part 2, but don't worry, we're gonna be still around in the summer, because I'm sure there's gonna be coverage for Sabrina at San Diego Comic-Con, if not at New York Comic-Con. So, but we're actually gonna be reviewing the ongoing Sabrina comic that is going on right now in Archie Comics. So we're gonna be after we do our season finale, we're probably gonna shift into a monthly coverage, but we're gonna disappear from you guys. So that's where you can find me at. If you want to find me on social media, I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Andy Behbakht. And as far as other stuff goes, I write for Fanside at hashtag show Screen Rant. I run the mallport.com, and I also co-host a Flash podcast and Titus podcast at the DZT Podcast Network. So I'm everywhere and anywhere. So come check me out.
Awesome. You guys know you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Arkwulf, ARKWULF. And of course, if you like what you hear, consider supporting us over at patreon.com/ThunderQuack. You can follow us on Twitter at ThunderQuackNet and on Instagram at ThunderQuack Podcast. And of course at the ThunderQuack.com to check out all the other great shows in our podcast network. Thank you, Andy, for being on this one with me. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and thank you to everybody who supports us. And we will catch you on the next ThunderQuack Reviewed, which is going to be Godzilla King of the Monsters. So we'll see you then.